People are looking a lot more for skill-based hires versus like having a certain degree.
The other day I read a post. If you have 10 years of experience, then you have way too much experience.
I wouldn't understand why having more experience would ever be a bad thing. I think that the more experience you have, the more likely you are to succeed in it. During COVID, we completely went remote. Like, I don't think we would ever go back, honestly, to in-person just because you have such a large selection of potential candidates. In my personal experience, I can tell immediately if a new hire is going to work out within the first week. So that's why I feel like honesty during an interview is just going to help both parties. So no one's wasting their time.
When you're a rock star, you go from little star to big star to rock star. You're always the artist, right? You're just getting better and better and better and better. It should be like that in every other role, pretty much.
Welcome to the 80/20 Recruit Podcast, the show that's all about mastering remote talent acquisition and retention. Whether you're hiring your first remote worker or scaling your team, we've got you covered. I'm Frank, your host. Let's get started.
Welcome to the 80/20 Recruit Podcast that is hiring, building, retaining top talent. This show is dedicated to helping business leaders, recruiters, and HR professionals master the art of hiring and managing real estate teams. I'm your host, Francisco Israel, and you can find me anywhere on LinkedIn. Our podcast is proudly sponsored by 80/20 Recruit, where we help companies recruit high-performing Latin American teams, saving them 70% in local salaries, 100% guaranteed without any markup or recurring fees. Our today's guest is Satnam Bhail, who is president at Cleanup Cali. That is a premier partner for temporary dumpster rentals in the greater Los Angeles area. Satnam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Francisco.
So, Satnam, I'm really curious to know about your experience because anytime you're leading a company, you should have passed for some kind of recruiting process, meaning that you have to have recruited anywhere from non-experienced people to high experienced people. So, in your business, tell us a little bit, what are the most important trends that you see stuff changing regarding recruiting and retaining teams?
I feel like in the past 10 years, what I've noticed myself, because we've been through, multiple like periods of hiring, people are looking a lot more for skill-based hires versus like having a certain degree in like a particular field. I'm more looking for someone, if I'm looking for a customer service rep, I want to see that you have X amount of experience in this field and you've stuck to it in a while versus like I want you to have your bachelor's in any particular field. I feel like that plays more to their how they end up working in with our company.
I understand, and I'm seeing a few, I don't know if trends, but the other day I read a post in LinkedIn that from a recruiter, it was saying something like, if you have 10 years of experience, then you have way too much experience. If you have 6 months experience, then you have too least experience. If you made a lot of money, then you were overpaid. If you made too little, then you weren't valuable enough. So what's the matter with everyone? So what's the right candidate?
I mean, I wouldn't understand why having more experience would ever be a bad thing. Maybe with more experience, you maybe expect a higher position or, in the company, or you wouldn't want a specific role in the company anymore. But I feel like the more experience you have, the better. And I also feel like the more you try different roles, you kind of know what sticks with you. Because sometimes you start in one position and then you decide, hey, I like more of like a management role, or I like more, facing with customers, or I don't want to face customers. So I feel like everything is kind of like a learned experience. I think that the more experience you have in a particular role or industry, the more likely you are to succeed in it.
Do you think there are big differences regarding hiring remote people with a remote interview uh, contrasted with local in-person interviews?
Yeah, well, I actually was going to say, I think that's the next big trend. Like for us during COVID, we completely went remote. And like, I don't think we would ever go back, honestly, to in person just because you have such a large selection of like potential candidates. And I do feel like that does give power back to the employers because you're like opening up the field for remote work and a lot of people are looking for jobs. It's just now about, it might even be the opposite problem where you have too many candidates and now you have to like select from so many applications. And that's a completely different challenge. But I personally don't think that hiring remote versus in person, there's like any negative in one versus the other, just because like when you're working in the office, yes, maybe there are some in-person documents you need to do, but if your work can be done remote, then like hiring should also be done remote. I haven't had any issues with getting to know someone, getting to know their personality, getting to know their core values. All of that I've been able to relay and really get a true sense of it online. So I don't think that remote hiring is a problem.
That's a big one. You mentioned a couple of things that I want to interrupt and ask, but I'll let you finish. So
Appreciate you.
a big one for me is core values.
Mhm.
And even though it could be cliche, I think it's a big thing. And how do you ask and look and search for equivalent in core values? I mean, let's say one core value of yours is excellence. You can't just say, "Hey, are you excellent?" No, right? How do you search for core values to see if you're a good match?
Line. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I knew. And this is something that I mean we've struggled with also to be, fully transparent is like during the interview process, obviously everyone knows what the boss wants to hear. And they're gonna say, I am great at customer service. I'm very empathetic. I go above and beyond to problem solve. But then, like, you actually try them out, and that's not really the case. Maybe they're flustered. Maybe they're not prepared. Whatever the case may be, um, that it's something that someone else on your podcast had mentioned, like hire fast, fire faster. That's the only thing we really do. I try to always give them a period to like catch on to the way things work and give them more time to like gain some experience. But in my personal experience, I can tell immediately if a new hire is going to work out within the first week. Typically, when we're training them, they're immediately very eager to start. They pick things up very quickly, like it's second nature, versus some candidates, even once they're hired, after 2 or 3 weeks, they still want the training wheels. They still want to practice more. And I can tell they're very hesitant because they're not confident because maybe they said they had more experience in something that they genuinely did not. So that's why I feel like honesty during an interview is just going to help both parties. So no one's wasting their time.
Tell me more. Tell me. I really want to dig deeper into when you say, I really know within a week when someone's gonna work. I know
Yeah.
that's a 90%, maybe not 100%, but tell me more on all those key things that you can see, green flags and red flags,
Mm,
please.
okay, yeah, definitely. So, like during the interview, I feel like it's hard for me, even in person or remote, no matter what, it's very hard for me to see like if this person's actually going to fit or not. Because even if it's an hour, 2 hour long interview, even if I give them assessments, usually these are like high functioning individuals. They're very good at whatever they're doing. So they typically will do well in that stage. But then once I have them talking to customers, we do a lot of office work. These are the jobs that we're hiring for. So when I have them talking to customers, to other like B2B, B2C, anything like that, they will make small mistakes. They'll forget a lot of their training. And when we are training them, with the candidates that do really well, I don't know how they're able to grasp the information so quickly, but they are very eager to learn. They're asking a lot of questions. They're very, very interested. and they want to try it on their own. They don't want my help. They're very like ready to start. Versus candidates who are more like cautious, they want more time to practice. They need like, 2-3 weeks to do the equivalent of what someone could do in a week. I can kind of tell. And we always say like, okay, maybe they just need more time to pick things up. But in my experience, after the first week, if they still need more time, they end up just not working out with the company, and they themselves agree. They either quit and they say this is too much for me, or they make numerous mistakes which were avoidable, and it just ends down the same path. I don't know if I explained that.
Yeah, yeah, you did. But it happened to me again that I wanted to dig deeper into a couple of things. So right now, more or less, how many people do you have remote versus in person?
Anybody that's answering the phone, besides just like the owners of the company, obviously we're based in California, but anybody else beside outside of that is working remotely. We're a service-based industry in Los Angeles, so anybody who has to physically do the work, like the drivers, anybody who's working like mechanics, they all have to be in person. But if you do not physically have to be present in Los Angeles, we hire outside of LA. Just work ethic, everyone's core values. I feel like we have tried to keep it within Los Angeles to stay local so people can come into the office. But going back to core values, it has been very difficult to find people out here who align with our core values. And we've been able to find that so much easier in remote positions from people all over the world. For whatever reason, I'm not sure, but they really understand, and that's not something that really we can train or teach. It's something you either like agree with it, you align with it, or you don't.
Okay, so here's a curveball for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you have remote and local in
Person.
person, and you tell me that core values is important for you, which usually means that you care a lot about culture as well. What are good best practices when building culture when you have people that are remote and people that are in person? Sometimes people that are remote feel a little left out because they can't eat the pizza with Friday nights or whatever. So how do you combine those two and build a culture
I
in your
feel like
company?
we just have really great communication within our company. We have a lot of like just things that we'll do together, and I feel like a lot of we wouldn't really, we're in the construction field, so a lot of our drivers are very manly, and there I can't imagine them like ever getting too like excited about anything. But just I feel like the communication is very open. We have a lot of jokes within the team. And if we ever have like a stressful day, we can just all kind of bond and talk about a customer and like, how could we have fixed that? What did they say? What does this remind us of? And things
All
like that.
that, regardless if it's in person or remote.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, regardless of if it's in person or remote, we kind of all, we'll have like a group chat, we'll all talk, and this is just something that we can all just communicate openly about. I feel like just
And
feeling included for everybody will definitely helps them to feel like we're all together in this. And we are a family business, so everyone on our team is like an extension of our family. We are very open about everything. Like there is no, yes, there's upper management and all that, but like we're very like it's a two-way street. If there's ever any things that we can work on, we 100% work on it, and they can see that as well, and vice versa.
how do you feel about playing online silly games and just have a laugh for a couple hours remotely with your team, and or having some pizza, maybe playing some other games, some Pictionary or whatever in
Yeah.
person in order to do some team building? How do you feel about tactics like that?
I feel like that's a great way to really get everyone together. Something we've been talking about is maybe like going on vacation, like a company retreat for everyone, maybe somewhere like in the middle where everyone is, and we can all go to like get together and do something fun like that. But I do think that any steps that you take to really make everyone feel included and involved in everything Like you said, games, fun games online. I think that would be really fun for any employees to feel like they're getting a different experience versus the stressful dealing with customers, chaotic data, all that stuff. I feel like anything different from that would be nice.
Hey there! A quick break to remind you that 8020 Recruit podcast is brought to you by 8020 Recruit, helping you hire pre-vetted, top-performing remote talent from Latin America. Save hours of recruiting and find the perfect fit for your team. Visit 8020recruit.com to learn more.
How do you feel about career growth? Because I'll give one example that I give all the time. Sometimes you have a great sales guy, he's making more money, he's a great deal maker, and then you're like, okay, next step, you're a manager, and then it's a flop because he doesn't have or she doesn't have management skills. They're good at sales, or that can happen for pretty much any kind of job. So the question is, how do you think about growth? Should all rock stars in their jobs have to make management, or can they just be better rock stars as they grow? How do you feel about that career growth?
That's a really good point. I mean, something that I've seen also, and we've seen this with like our employees, is some people don't want that management role because being a manager entails different things. You don't get to talk to the customers as much. You kind of have to deal with more paperwork. You don't get to be everyone's friend anymore because you're telling them what to do, what not to do. So if they want that opportunity, I definitely think that that's something that should be, allotted to them. And if they don't have the experience, then sending them to school, stuff like that, I definitely think could help. But not everyone, I think, can be a great salesperson and a great manager. I think those skill sets are very different, and they can definitely try, but I don't think that necessarily because you're one at good at one, you will be good at the other. That makes sense.
So what do you do in your case?
I mean, we have many employees, so if we can see one is better or we feel like they have the characteristics that would make them a better manager versus another, we would just give it time and bring that, like, present that option to the other person. But obviously, you want the salesperson, the great salesperson, you want them to feel like they're being valued as well. So a discussion, like an open discussion, would be something that they would need to do, and just let them know what management entails and if that's something that they're comfortable with, because you don't want to ruin a relationship with a great salesperson because you try to fit a square into a circle, and you ruin that whole relationship with them.
Here's my little nugget about a book that I've recommended a couple of times that I think is great. I mean, I could just talk about it all day. It's called First Break All the Rules. It's a lot about recruitment, but a lot about management. And what they say is something that is pretty logical, but people, for whatever reason, or companies do very little. The best practice is when you find someone that is a rock star, let's say a rock star designer or rock star sales guy. Sales guy is a good example. Just let them grow within the role. They always give the great example of a sports professional. So, like, if you're a quarterback, your 15-year career is going to be being a quarterback, being better and better and better and better of a quarterback. You don't turn to another position because whatever reason. I mean, the more the more you're doing that, the better you're going to get good at. So what companies should do is give them a way to grow within that position so that they can make more money, have more responsibility, and just grow within that position so that they get more experience, they make themselves more valuable to the company. And for some reason, what happens is that they grab them and promote them to manager, and then they fail instead of just making them shine a lot more as a rock star in that position.
Do you feel like because they want to reward them by giving them like a better title, that they want to give them a manager because there is only so much that you can grow, especially like us, we're a family business. There's only so much that we can grow or allow you to grow as a salesperson. Like, but you also don't want them to feel like they're stuck in that role and they're, feeling sedentary or they don't have any place to move or rank up. What do you think we would do in that situation then?
Well, I think that you would have to look at the numbers for a couple of reasons, but I would think that I'm pretty sure that if you're a sales guy, especially if you're a sales guy, and you have more experience, more connections, more partners, more abilities, more charisma, whatever, you grow that, you can definitely make more money with less effort. Therefore, get better compensations more and more. So I think that in sales, especially, you can definitely make more and more and more within the same position. You could doubt that for, or maybe a painting guy, the one that paints, even they can paint more with more quality faster after a while, right? Of so some of them have a roof, of course, but many of them can make good enough money once they're enough of a rock star. That's what I think, and I agree. I mean, I always felt it, but I renewed this idea out of the book. And like, yeah, why do people do that? And the reason that people do that is that it feels like you're only successful if you make it to CEO or to manager. And it's not necessarily like that. You should have the opportunity to just be your your thing rock star.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's like a mindset shift that needs to be done of like always, a bigger title, a bigger role, but like you could be an amazing salesperson and that could be your calling, that could be your passion, and just like being happy with that position and being fulfilled. And like I said, that's that's how I felt too. And we've seen it within our own, company of people not wanting to move up and being happy with where they're at, because they just really genuinely enjoy their position. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually, I think it's noble to know like this is what I like to do and this is what I'm going to stick with.
So actually, when you say I'm a sales rock star, you should look at the example rock star. When you're a rock star, actually playing rock music, you don't go from one position to the next. You go from little star to big star to rock star. But you're always the artist, right? You're just getting better and better and better and better, and you're always the artist. It should be like that in every other role, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Anyway, Miss Satnam, it's been amazing. I had a lot of fun meeting you, getting to know about your experience. I really want to give you a space to let us know who do you serve as companies and how can people know more about you and your company.
Sure. So you can find us at cleanupcali.com. My name is Satnam, but a lot of my customers call me Felicia. If you ever need help with a dumpster, you're a business owner, you're a customer, you're a contractor, homeowner, realtor. We serve all companies, large, small, any kind of project. And you can reach us at cleanupcali.com. Please ask for Felicia or Satnam, and we'd be more than happy to help you anytime.
Is there any last message you want to pass out to the world?
Just keep working hard and go for your passion, go for your dreams, think big.
Beautiful. Thank you. So that's a wrap for today. Huge thanks to Satnam. You can learn more about her and cleanupcali.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. And if you're an industry leader and you want to be featured, please apply to be a guest at 8020recruit.com/podcast. And of course, consider 8020 Recruit as your go-to partner for all things recruiting in our industry. Until next time, and keep building strong teams and hiring smarter. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the 8020 Recruit podcast. If you found today's episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Want more tips? Follow us on LinkedIn and visit our website 8020recruit.com for exclusive resources. See you next time.